All right. In the last video, we kind of talked about having user interface that kind of sits on top of your scene. So here it's like I have this rollerball game, and then I have this canvas with the logo and the title, and then eventually the interactive score on top of it. We can also kind of set up like a menu screen. Okay. So rather than jumping directly into the game or into the virtual world, we could set up like a menu where there's some options on that. So I'm just going to go through that relatively quickly, and it's not too difficult. So what I'm going to do is open up exercise 10, and this is actually already in, at least it should be. Might be hard to see it, but there we go. There's the canvas, okay, right here. Actually, it's not a canvas. That's just the light. Let's add the canvas. And this is going to be kind of like a menu, kind of essentially like, I think I may have deleted it, but did I delete it? Maybe I deleted it. But, I was showing you a thing earlier of like the video game with the menu screen, kind of like that. So what I'm going to do is let's add a canvas. Okay. It automatically adds the event system here. We're not going to worry about that right now. And I can even call this like menu. Okay. And actually, what I'd like to do is maybe have like a background image. Okay. Uh, like a color and maybe like a design that kind of sits on top of it. So let's try doing that. All right. So what I'm going to do is with the menu selected, I'm going to go under game objects, under UI, and I'm actually going to add what is referred to as a panel. A panel is essentially like a background, and you can see it kind of fills in the whole thing. You can set a color here, so I can set this to red. Now you might notice that this is actually semi-transparent. You can see through it. And that's because here you can see that the alpha is kind of set to the medium, so it's semi-transparent. I'm going to set this all the way up so that it's a perfect solid color, okay? And I'm actually going to add a image here. So rather than it just being like a solid color, which is currently what I have, I want to use one of these images. I'm going to use this black and white image. And like with these images here, I'm going to set this to be a sprite. And when you get this inspector unsaved, blah, 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 just set that. And that should now make it a sprite. I'm going to go back to the panel. I'm just going to relabel this as background here. Okay. And I'm going to place this here. Oops, am I? You used to be able to do that. Hold on one second. All right, actually, I'm gonna change this a little. What I was doing was an older method, and actually, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna not use that panel. I apologize, I got a little tricked up here. Things are kind of a little different from the earlier version of Unity that I'm familiar with. I'm just gonna go to raw image, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stretch this to fill in the canvas, and I can still do that color. So if I wanted to set the color, you can see I can do that. But why I chose raw images is this allows me to use a texture, and I'm actually going to lay that there. Now this image actually has transparency, so you can see now I'm getting these, I'm seeing through the design to the red color behind it. So I can kind of use this to kind of make an interesting design. I did the same thing here where I set this as a sprite, and I could change that as well. I'm getting like this kind of fish scale here. Okay, so that's my background. I'll just call it background. Once again, I might want to put the name of the world or the game here there. So that would be a Text Mesh Pro. And I'm just going to use the move tool here. Let's move this up. So let's say I wanted to call this rollerball. I'm typing over here. Once again, I can set the font. So I'm going to use, oops, I have the same issues as I had in that other scene. So what I'm going to do is install that other font. So let's do TextMesh Pro Font Asset Creator. Uh, let's use Zendots. Save it. Okay. Oh, I guess I already had it here. I had Lucky Guy. Okay. So if I use this TextMesh Pro, now I have access to those. So I could use Zendots or Luckiest Guy. Let's use Luckiest Guy. You can see how that sits there. Maybe I want this a little bigger. I'm actually going to increase this so that I can increase the size of it. Something like that. You can change the color here under face color. Blurry. You can put like a stroke around it. Or I think you can do, this would do like a drop shadow, I believe. Okay. And this is what it looks like. Let's just say for the sake of argument, I wanted a button. Okay. So when someone comes in, they can click the button and it starts the game. Okay. I'm going to call this title. I'm going to go up here and let's use the button TextMesh Pro. All right. And now that's going to add a button and I'm going to place it here. And once again, what that's actually going to do is create a button that has a subset, which is the actual text. Now, in this case, the text is button. I'm going to click on that text and let's set that text from button to play game. Okay. And once again, I'm going to set the font to Zendots. Okay. Or Lucky. Let's use Luckiest Guy. Okay. That's what that's going to look like. If you want to, so if I want to play around with the button itself, I'm going to click on the button. So I'm going to recall this or relabel this play button. And the button's what's going to actually control what happens. So you could, set a color here. This is like the normal color. You could set like a highlighted color, which is kind of like in HTML or sorry, in CS. Well, in CSS, there's like a hover color. So if let's just say I did this as like a light red, I could set the highlighted color to maybe like a dark red. Um, let's try that out. So I have to be in play mode for this to work. Oops. Maybe not. Maybe it's selected. Let's try green. Oh, there it is. Okay. So it is working. I don't know why it didn't work the last time, but you can see now I have this highlighted color. I think this is like if I actually, the green, the selected is if you actually like click on it. That's kind of like in HTML CSS terms. That's like if you were to, it's like a visited link kind of situation. Okay. Now, even with the highlighting, it doesn't do anything. Like, it highlights or, it creates a hover effect, and that's cool and everything. But that really doesn't do a lot. So what I'm going to do is, I'll set this to be, oh, that's the text itself. I could make the button. I could resize it here to make the button a little taller. Let's make it like 50. Yeah. This is the literal size of the button, not the text, but the button, symbol, the sort of rounded rectangle here. And you can play around with, if you wanted it to rotate. I don't know why you would, but you could do that like that. Okay. But let's say, okay, so I got my button. Now what I wanted to do is I want to write a button, or I want this button, if I click this, I'm gonna hit save, and I want it to go to this level 1 that we created earlier. Okay. Now to do that, I'm gonna make a script, okay, or at least use a script. What I'm gonna do is open this script up here. And notice that I've already done the scene management. I need to do that because I need to be able to switch between, I need to load a level from from the, from our build settings. So in other words, what I want to do is I'm going to add in this menu as like the first one, and I wanted to go from uh, that level to level 1. Okay. So let's actually do that. So I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to go to build profile. Let's open scene list, and I'm actually going to add this one. Okay. It's the first thing that should load, and it's at slot 0. And then if I want to click it and I want it to go to index 1, okay. All right, so this is going to allow me to do that. Now what I want to do is I want to build a function. Okay, now if you remember anything about functions from P5, when you guys wrote JavaScript, a function can really do anything. So I'm going to write my own function here called say hello. And what I'm going to do is when someone runs this function, we'll just print the phrase hello to the console. Okay, now if I run this script, nothing happens because I haven't run this function. But if I go into here and I run that function, say hello, you can see that it runs it. Or I could even set this up to an event, like say a key press. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, if somebody hits a key on their keyboard, it's going to run this function, which then runs this. So if I hit play, nothing happens by default, but if I hit a key on my keyboard, it runs the function. Okay. That's what we're going to do, but in C#. So what I'm going to do is make a function. I'm going to make a function, and we have, like with variables, you could just make a function, but it's, if you want to be able to call it in Unity, it has to be a public function. So I'm going to call it public. I've said before how it's like a little bit different between C# and Java and JavaScript. One of the things is when you had a function in JavaScript, you didn't have to say what the function returns as a value. But in C# you do. So I'm going to say void. Void means this function isn't going to return any value or information. It's just doing something. Okay. And then I'm going to give the function a name, and I'm going to call the function play game. Okay. That should be good. Give it a second here. Just want to make sure my code is correct before I do anything. Okay. So I have a function called play game. Oops, that's in the other script. And then I have to say what play game does. Well, in this case, all I really want to do is tell the Unity to go from the current level that it's in to level 1. Okay. So I'm just going to use that scene manager function we talked about before. Okay. So I could actually do something like this. Or I could put the name of the build index, which would be 1 in this case. So what this is saying is when this runs, load scene 1. Okay, I'm gonna hit save. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add this code, which was called UI scripts. I'm gonna add it to our button. Okay. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna add it to our button. Now what I'm gonna do is, the reason why I did that is I want the button to have the ability to access this code, okay, which accesses everything inside of that code, like play game. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to say, what does the button do when you click on it? So under on click, which means when somebody clicks, what should happen? What I'm going to do is hit the plus sign. And I'm going to click. I'm going to take this button and I'm going to put it here. Okay, what this is saying is when someone clicks on this button, what should happen? And the answer for right now is I want to go under here and we want to run a function from our C# script UI scripts, which is right here. If I go inside of it, you'll notice that I have a lot of stuff. And then I have that function that we built earlier called play game. So I'm going to click on that. So what this is saying is when someone clicks on this button, go inside of the play button object, find this script, and then run this function. That's why it's important that you make this public. If I hadn't made it public, this would not appear inside of Unity, okay? And so let's see if this works. Did I do it right? Oops, I misspelled something wrong. There you go. It's manager with only 1 N. Spelling is not my strong suit by far. All right, let's go to game mode. Let's hit play. Okay, I think I'm in play mode. If I hit this, it goes to my first level. Okay. So that's what's kind of nice. We can make buttons. You could even put a button in your, that's constantly, in your world. So like, I don't know, let's go back to my exercise. Let's go back to like here. This is level 2 of my game. Let's just say for the sake of argument, I wanted it to be possible to have a button to go back to the menu screen, for instance. I'm going to add a canvas. And why don't I add another button? Here's the button. I'm going to put it in 2D mode just to make it easy to see. All right. I don't really like this button image. So I'm actually going to set this to like none. I'm gonna set the, see, one second. Oh, this is the image. Sorry. This is the image. I'm gonna remove that. Yeah. So I'm gonna set this to be blank. Okay. So I have the button, but not the, there's no like backing, so to speak. And I'm gonna set, so this is gonna be, I'm gonna call this, return to menu button. All right, and I'll call this, I don't know, let's call it home screen, right? And once again, I'm gonna go add a script. And I'm gonna make a new function, return home. And when someone clicks on that button, I want it to go back to the menu screen, which currently is just index 0. I could also just call it whatever the name is. I think it's, exercise 10, but I'm kind of lazy. So let's try this. And I'm going to go, oops. Okay, let's do all that. All right, I'm going to go to click on the button, and we're going to go down to on click. Let's add this button to here. Oh, I forgot to add the script to this button. So let's do that. There we go. Now I'm going to go under function, UI scripts, and then return home. All right, so I now have a button that's going to be kind of not just on the menu screen, but kind of like, on my user interface. So let's try this out. Oops. All right, so if I go here, this should take me to level 1. And when I get to level 2, oops. Oh, I didn't write the script, but anyway, I'll just do it manually. I hit play. Click on this. It takes me back. Okay. Another thing to note, when it comes to UI elements is when you have a canvas, it's built in relationship to your viewport here. Okay. Sometimes you might have a situation where the game may expand or collapse. So my suggestion is when you have a canvas, there's usually this thing called canvas scaler. And so rather than constant pixel size, scale with screen size. Okay, so what that means is that if this game is projected smaller or larger in your headset, or if this was like a web game and it increases or decreases, that your canvas will go in ratio to that. Okay. In the past, I've had students say, why do my buttons, not move with it? That's why. You have to make sure that the scale with screen size option is on. Okay.